I super appreciate you taking the time to
Yeah,
chat
of course.
about the video. Um, so Paul, you are Team APS is one of the biggest Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube channels, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, one of the bigger ones for sure.
So you saw my my hot take about our favorite game and saw all
Yeah,
the
I
crazy
did.
backlash to it. So it looks like I'm very much not the first YouTuber who's not a Yugi-tuber, quote unquote, to
Yeah,
have some
you're
sort of hot
not.
take and then get a bunch of pushback
Yeah,
from
you're not. There's been a few.
yeah.
It feels like it's like kind of an event. It just happens
I
every
know
once a
it's funny
year. I
seeing
don't
all the
know. Like,
comments are like, oh, here we go again. Like, okay, is this
yeah,
really? And it's like on some level, I have to wonder like if it's that frequent, that says something too, right? It's not
yeah.
just
I mean, I definitely think that's kind of how I felt about it too. Is like it's interesting because like I mean I play Yu-Gi-Oh, like paper real life Yu-Gi-Oh. I
yeah.
play Master Duel, all these things. So I mean like I like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Uh-huh.
I do think it's fun. I've got my critiques, but I always do find it strange that like when an outsider kind of has an assessment of Yu-Gi-Oh, they try to like revisit it, play it again, or reminisce about it or whatever. They are usually met with a lot of hostility. And I think like you're right. Like I mean, if people are saying something, if people from the outside have an opinion, it's like I do think we should listen to people who you know maybe don't have the best things necessarily to say. Because I mean, like it's still valid criticism. I mean, at least I think your video was valid criticism. So
Thank you. I'm glad you think so. And I do think people have gotten the wrong idea that it's like I only played, a decade and a half ago and just never touched the game again. But like I
yeah,
played it fairly frequently. This is the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is I think it has the coolest creature designs of like any of the card games. Like I really really enjoy like seeing the new ones that come out and every time I'm like, "Oh man, like that one looks so cool. I want to play the game again. I'm going to just give it one more try. Okay, I'm going to give it another shot." And
yeah.
so it's like I keep bouncing off of it and in a way that I don't for the other ones. But no, like I genuinely I saw the new, I guess they're not that new at this point probably, but the Exodia card, the unstoppable Exodia fusion
Yeah.
monster, I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, with like the
okay."
Millennium cards. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
that was a really clever one. Yeah.
they were really cool and they were good. And so I
Yeah.
built that deck on Master Duel and I got like decently high ranked. I was playing the game. I was in the trenches fighting all the ash blossoms, all the
Yeah, I
crazy
think
stuff.
that that's the common assertion is just that like, if you play it cuz I think that it comes from this idea that like, all you got to do to understand modern Yu-Gi-Oh is just play it a little bit and
Yeah.
then you'll understand it and you'll like it. And if you don't agree with that, then it must mean you're like just thinking of Playground 2002, 2003,
Yeah.
lunchroom, cafeteria, Yu-Gi-Oh, and that must be like where your experience with it ends.
Right. It's super interesting to see the term Yugi-boomer keeps popping up.
Yeah,
And
that one's a I don't like that word. I mean,
yeah,
like I get what people mean by it. Like I know we got to find shorthand to quickly lob arguments and stuff, but like I don't love the word. I don't think that it's a fair word, and for many reasons.
yeah, it's super interesting. And I was just thinking, like, is there any other franchise or like player based that has that sort of relationship with the elder fans? I'm like racking my brain trying to think of one.
I mean,
Um,
I think it's because I don't know that there like I mean I know that there's a lot of fandoms where there's kind of like an old and new divide, but I feel like
yeah,
most fandoms there's more common ground or like there's more shared enjoyment of the new things. And I don't think like
yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh is completely missing that either because like people still today like Dark Magician and Blue Eyes. Like that's
right.
not, those things haven't changed, but in terms of card games, definitely I think like Yu-Gi-Oh's got the biggest divide and I feel like we're going to probably get into it in a bit, but like my general hunch, my general thesis is just that like Yu-Gi-Oh today, modern Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever we want to call it, is actually just fundamentally it is a different game.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that when you view it in that lens, more of the arguments and I guess like the disagreements start to at least they make more sense, I guess, to me when you just view it as like, okay, this is new Yu-Gi-Oh, modern Yu-Gi-Oh, whatever, and then like old Yu-Gi-Oh it's just a separate product, a separate card game, a separate existence.
Yeah.
And the problem is almost that they're just getting people, like they just happen
Yeah.
to share the same name. And so,
They keep trying to bait the old people into coming back. They're like, no, trust me, it's the same. We still have blue eyes. And it's like, okay, well, good luck with that. But it's funny. I don't know if are you familiar with Pokemon at all?
the TCG or just
And just in general.
Plenty in general, yeah.
Yeah, because like the only other instance that I could think of for like a sort of hostile relationship between the millennial original
Right.
like Gen X fans and the newer fans are like when I don't know, this is probably like more of a decade ago type thing, but I remember like browsing Reddit in the 2010s and seeing like the term like Gen 1er tossed around a lot.
Yeah.
That was
that Pokemon, it does have that. Yeah.
yeah, which I don't know. Like that seems to have mostly gone away. Like the people who were actually like Gen 1ers were people who genuinely like had no interest in playing the modern game as far as I know. Because once you gave it a try, like that's the thing that I think is different between like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering and modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like it is not that hard to get back into Pokemon. It is not that hard to
It's
get back
really
into
not.
Magic the
Yeah.
Gathering.
Fundamentally, these like it's Magic and Pokemon, I think, whether the card games or like, even the Pokemon video games, whatever, are still quite recognizable.
Yeah.
Like I think like in terms of gameplay loop and just accessibility, it's because I mean like just Pokemon TCG, it's the rules are they're the same. I mean like the Pokemon have more HP now and whatever, but like
Yeah.
I mean it's kind of the same thing. And Yu-Gi-Oh's not that for sure. It just simply is not that at all. The fundamentals, the skill sets, the expectations around the cards, nothing is at all the same.
Yeah, it's super interesting trying to get back into it. Like if you stopped playing during like the Exceed era and then came back in like now, you're seeing like the vestiges of like two rulebook changes, right? Like you have the master rule switch where you had the link thing and the extra monster zone and all that. And if you hadn't experienced that, like so many things are like, what was the point of this? What's with the
Yeah. I mean, I think with Yu-Gi-Oh! Too, like it's a game where they, unlike maybe like a digital game or something, they strictly have to just build on top of the foundation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they couldn't reboot it, but I mean they haven't, so I guess they just don't really want to. It's like they have taken this core rule set that, like I'm gonna be repeating, I'm gonna be kind of like sounding like a broken record here, but like Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have a resource system. Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't really have like guardrails in place that prevent a lot of what's going on. So whenever Konami sort of wants to make a new summoning type, Synchro, Xyz, whatever, they just kind of have to build it on top. And
yeah.
I think like as time goes on, people acclimate, right? Like I think people kind of got used to Synchros and they actually really liked them. People got used to Xyz and they really liked them. I think, it's not really until like Pendulums and Links where things get a little bit iffy, but it's also what you said where like rulebook changes, the board kind of like shifting and then walking it back some and then adding a new thing. It's like, and it's all just on top of this foundation where like that makes it look worse, I think, in hindsight. It makes it look bad maybe to an outsider for sure.
Yeah, it is tough. I do feel like a lot of the stuff, like the new summoning types, were more alienating than they needed to be. In that, like, I don't know, for example, okay, so my favorite card when I was a kid was Celtic Guardian, okay, and so which Celtic Guardian was never that great, but I remember seeing like Synchros come out. And I was like, oh, okay, so these are all like upgrade cards. Like they synchronize and they become more powerful creatures. Can Celtic Guardian do that? No, absolutely not. And it was like, well, why isn't he a tuner? How do I make my favorite monster? Why can't he be a tuner too? Why can't he attune to the power of the ether or whatever it is? So there is a lot of just like I don't know how much people care about the diegetic nature of some of the aspects of the game. That's something that I really connect to.
I've got a lot to say about that, actually.
I would love to hear what you think about that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I know, like, because you talk about it in your video, and I think we've talked about it a little bit in the past, too. Like, I do think that in Yu-Gi-Oh!, old mechanics felt like they fit in terms of, like, flavor and immersion and lore. Rituals, you are performing a ritual, right? Like, a fusion is what it says it is. And it's kind of funny because, like, just a little quick aside, I almost feel like if like Xyz almost feel like what Fusion probably should have almost been.
I agree.
Strictly diegetically speaking, like,
Yeah.
mechanics and stuff aside, like just the idea of literally like put the two monsters on top of each other. Like that would have been, it would have made a lot of
Oh
visual
yeah, I
sense.
totally agree. I think like the fusions, the fact that fusions send the monster to the graveyard is weird. Like it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. Like if they would have just done that from the jump, stack the two cards. Like that's what I did actually. Like on Playground Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, same, yeah.
Like no one had Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. The card wasn't printed yet, and you literally just stacked 3 Blue Eyes cards on
You
top.
stacked
and
their
said
blue
that
eyes and
was
said
it.
that you had it.
Yeah.
I think that like later on, I totally agree that like synchro is a bit ambiguous. Like sometimes the show sort of seems to define it with an aesthetic of
Yeah.
like, the tuners tend to be like I wasn't sure if they like decided if it was supposed to be music, like tuning a guitar, or like a tune being played. Because early on, some of them do have like a bit of a music theme,
Yeah,
like
it's
the
true.
resonator monsters or whatever. Or if it was supposed to be like tuning an engine, like mechanical,
Yeah, the
because
little
that was like
mechanic
the
guy.
5D's vibe.
Yeah.
But early on, they were at least aesthetically speaking, there was something there. Like there was a consistent theme. But like as time goes on, it's like, well, okay, Plague Spreader Zombie's a tuner, but what is he? He's not either of those things. Or like, Glow Up Bulb's not either of those things. And like,
Yeah,
so, like, these
it's kind of
tuners
just like
come
they're
out
all
and they
little
just-
guys. They're all just like
it's-
little
yeah,
dudes.
there's little guys, and it's to really. That's when you see like I think a shift to like,
Yeah.
what makes a tuner a tuner? It has the word tuner on it,
Right,
And
yeah.
and like same with Xyz and stuff. And I think when I sort of hear people's responses to this, for some people, I realized diegetic gameplay, like kind of connections, simply aren't important to them. Like, and that's okay, right? Like, for me personally, I drew the line at like link monsters as an aesthetic thing. I don't understand what's happening when a link summon happens. Like,
Yeah.
a monster is vanishing and another monster is like appearing, and that it just, there is no connection. I play link monsters. I don't have any problem with that. I understand it, but I think like, in terms of lore, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of this stacking of summoning types where they feel more arbitrary. They feel like they're kind of just it is mechanic first, and then immersion or whatever second. I don't love that. I think that that's something that could have actually been better defined when these were released, and those are themes that they could have stuck with. Like the tuner thing, I think that they could have stuck with it. Like even if you made like this might be too into the weeds, but like let's say like Plague Spreader Zombie, it's a tuner, right? I still think that if you at least had visually made it like he's a zombie playing a guitar, like it's a stretch, but like at least it's kind of like, well, all tuners are this, and so like there's something happening there at least like aesthetically.
Yeah.
But at some point you just realize, man, two monsters make Nightmare Phoenix, two monsters kind of just make a Link 2, and it just is.
Yeah, if they had eroded any of the old like vanilla monsters to be tuners, I think people would have like connected with it way better right from the jump as well. But
Yeah, that would have been a good idea. Like the Celtic Guardian example, like kind of, and they, to be fair, they do that in Yu-Gi-Oh.
they
will
reprint
oftentimes
stuff,
eventually
yeah,
get-
or the retrain,
get
right?
around
That's the
to-
term. Yeah,
Yeah, they'll get around to retrains, so it's not,
and those are cool.
it's
Like
not
I'm
all
always
bad.
excited when I see a new retrain. Like I'm excited for the new the pumpkin card.
Yeah, the pumpkin
is coming
stuff.
back.
I also want to say, because I feel like it is worth mentioning, I think in exchange for strictly like diegetic mechanics within the game, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Has instead embraced like storytelling through the way that monsters work. And I guess an example of that would be like, one of my favorite archetypes is Vanquish Soul.
Okay.
They're like kind of based on fighting game characters, sort of vaguely. And so their effects all involve like button combinations that you're pressing.
Oh, that's
And so
cool.
they emulate that by like revealing attributes. So like this one monster is like, okay, if you reveal a fire monster in your hand, he'll get this one effect. But if you reveal a fire and a dark monster, he'll get another effect.
Oh,
And so
like
it's
a
supposed to kind of
combination. That's
yeah,
cool.
simulate little combinations. And they also can like tag out by like bouncing back to your hand, another one gets summoned. So it's sort of like a tag fighter game, like a Marvel, Capcom, like those sorts of tag fighting games. So it's like, I think that they sort of got rid of one immersive diegetic element in exchange for another. And I think
that's a great point. Yu-Gi-Oh is like super creative with like the mechanic design, the card design, the names. Man, some of the names I'm like, whoa, they
Yeah.
really thought that one out. Like
They go deep. They go so deep.
If you
these
looked at
days.
the Predaplant archetype, because man, like the names
Yeah,
there,
you would know, wouldn't you? Yeah.
yes, like I'm. That was another time where I saw those and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come back to Yu-Gi-Oh just for this, because like all the names of the Predaplants are like fusions of the like scientific names of the plant and the animal that is being depicted. Like
Yeah.
it's so cool.
I actually think that like it's a bit of a shame then that sometimes, and like again, not everybody's playing the game for like, you know, etymology reasons or whatever, but I do sometimes hate that. Like, here's a quick example that I've given to a lot of people recently. There's a deck called Malice, which is sort of based on like Alice in Wonderland, and it's got an aesthetic
Okay.
and it's really cool. The thing is, though, it's a very strong deck, and it is a link-based deck, and so it moves fast. The combos move really fast. The monsters kind of like, they get summoned, then they link away, and they get summoned,
Yeah.
and link away. And what I sometimes don't like about it is that you have cool designs, and you have inspiration from like, you know, real, like, a lot of these archetypes, real literature, real movies and books, and like in like history and stuff. But because the mechanics are moving so fast, you don't really get to appreciate it.
I totally agree. This is one of the things that I wanted to mention today is like all these cool designs, just like you don't get to spend time with them. And
don't.
like
The
I'm
decks are
trying to
often in a
imagine
rush
like
to,
doing
like,
an anime of
zoom
these.
through.
Yeah, like try to imagine actually depicting modern Yu-Gi-Oh in anime. That's exactly what you said. Like things pop in and pop out.
That's a whole thing actually though, because
Yeah.
like, so Yu-Gi-Oh, the most recent of the like, I guess what you call traditional Yu-Gi-Oh anime is Yu-Gi-Oh Vrains.
Yeah.
And that was one with Link Monsters. And so like in those duels in that show, they do sort of have to zip fast through
Right.
their turns. And like, it was just to say like there's a guy who plays Salamangreat. He's like the Joey of the show. And like he's in his duels, you have to kind of like summon Salamangreat Spinny, link it all for this, link this all for this, link this all for this. Like,
Yeah.
And like when I'm watching, I kind of find myself being like, man, like you don't get to rest with the monsters. You don't get to sit with kind of what they're about, because they have to like storm through, kind of rattle through this combo and get to the end piece. And I think that is like anime wise, like if they were to make a new Yu-Gi-Oh 9 anime or whatever, hopefully they do. I do feel like if they want to represent whatever modern Yu-Gi-Oh looks like, that's so hard to translate on screen.
Yeah.
Because it's long plays. You know, like I imagine somebody playing like a Yummy deck or something, or like a Mitsurugi deck, and just so many of the cards like show up and they leave and they come back to the hand, they leave and they search, and it's like, you know, how do I trim the fat on that and make it presentable and digestible? And that's difficult.
Yeah, it's hard to make anyone connect with any of the monsters when no single monster is like has much importance, right? It's like really the point is to build a massive board of Omni Negates or whatever. Like no one monster is really carrying, and so you can't really like when the characters themselves aren't putting all their stake into one cool creature. You know, the players aren't going to either, right?
I think we're probably going to talk about that one turn thing, but there is something you just mentioned that I think is like, I'm reminded of this a lot too when I play, is like how the idea of a boss monster being something that is like, you know, suspensefully led up to isn't really the case. Like, you know, you think of Salamangreats, they'll make their best monster on the first turn. Like, you know, there was a period of time in Yu-Gi-Oh where the boss monster was not summoned on turn 1 or even like turn 2, but maybe like turn 3 or 4, like after it had been, you know, there's like a narrative to the duel. And I think that today's duels they move really fast. And I almost compare them, I think, to like a power fantasy anime.
Yeah.
Right? Like where you kind of just get to, it's like wish fulfillment. I have all the power. I can do everything. I can overwhelm, you know, and like it's horror farming. Like, you know, you're getting
it's great.
Summon everything
I love
that you
it.
want and feel unstoppable and feel like you're depriving, you know, your opponent of everything. Like there's an appeal to that for people, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely. So for the one turn thing, so in my video, I'm talking about how like traps basically are like borderline pointless. You never want to ever draw them because you know, you can't use them right away. So what do you think about the points that I made there?
Okay, I have two major things. I think like The one turn thing is, it's so interesting because I think that it is true and like true, but I guess would be like how most people would say. Like there are a lot of games in Yu-Gi-Oh where a person wins the die roll or the coin flip and they go first, and if unimpeded, they will win that duel. They will set up everything. The turn might take a little while, and I will deprive you of your plays. I'll say you can't do that. I'll say you can't do that. I will negate that. I'll negate that. Like, and the duel will be over, and that will be the end of it. I think that that does not represent all duels. I think that like maybe like when I play in regionals, for instance, about like 50% of the duels do go that way.
Okay.
Like it's just, yep, you go first, you win. I think that the hand trap thing is the big like wrench in that Konami has sort of, they've designed all these hand traps. The idea is that you need to be running a lot of hand traps, and these will allow you to sort of like wrangle for your turn, wrangle for the right to play. And so if you use your hand traps well, if you know where to use this Ash Blossom, where to use this Infinite Impermanence, where to use whatever, Droll and Lockbird, all these cards, then you can effectively wrestle your turn back. And now on your turn, your opponent they were forced to make like a weaker board, a board that can't kill you in one turn. And now you get to play, and a lot of games do look about like that. And so it's not so much that like it's like a one-turn game, but it is like a game where you have to fight for that one turn. And if you get it, then you can kind of end up in a back and forth. And I know people pointed this out, and they're absolutely right. There are decks that are designed to grind a little bit longer than that. There are decks that like they recycle resources. I'm sure you saw like comments about like the Odeon deck or the Labyrinth deck. That's getting into the trap thing. We'll get to that in a second. But like, there are decks that are designed to kind of like wither down resources and do a back and forth. But even those decks are still bound to the general rule of like, you have to fight for your first turn.
Right.
In Yu-Gi-Oh, if you are not able to fight for your first turn, it doesn't matter what you're playing. You're just not going to get it. And the trap thing, I think when people talk about traps, I saw a lot of people who said like, well, there are traps that get played today. Like, there are traps that can be activated from hand.
Right.
I think getting a little bit back to the diegetic thing, I feel like that sort of betrays what a trap card is, what was originally meant to be.
Yeah, I
trap
agree.
that is
Like
set.
there's a lot I could say, but it, like almost, I wouldn't say all, but most of the like counter arguments that I saw were like, but what about Infinite Impermanence, or what about like the ones that you set from the deck? And it's like, well, those are the ones that dodge what I'm saying, that dodge the exact drawback that I'm talking about. Like, obviously, the ones that can get set from the deck. Like, I played that. I played the Unstoppable Exodia, which sets Obliterate from the deck, and it sets Exiled Fires of Rage. And, like, I would rather those be in the extra deck. I never want those to be drawn. I'd rather that if there was a trap card that was in the extra deck, that my card could just, like, summon that way, and I'd never had a chance to draw it. You'd prefer that, right? And so it's like, we're not talking about the same thing. These are really just extensions of the monster's effects in a sense.
It's very much a kind of like trap card in name only sort of thing, where like there are really powerful trap cards today. Like, I mean, like people talk, I'm sure people mention Evenly Matched or like the Dominus cards, like very strong traps that can be set face down, but are best used
that's not the
from
point.
they're best used from your hand.
Yeah.
And the only other real application you see with trap cards is an Archetype that has a trap that it can, like you said, set directly from the deck, or like it searches the trap, and their deck list likely only plays like one copy of that trap with the intention that it will be searched and set when they go first.
Right.
And that's kind of where I do think that I don't want to say that people who are advocating that like trap cards still exist are doing it in bad faith exactly, but I do think like the Mitsurugi deck, for instance, I'm sure you saw people talk about like, well, Mitsurugi uses great purification. It's this trap card. It's an Omni-Negate, and they can search it. And so like they'll go first. They'll do their Mitsurugi things. They'll make their board. It'll be fun. And then they will search this trap in the process of the combo and set it. But for me, I think while it's cool that it's called a trap card, I'm getting to flip it on my opponent's turn. I do think that it's betraying like the idea. I mean, my opponent even saw me search the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like they saw me
Right.
search the thing,
You had
and
to reveal it.
they saw me search it and set it, and so it's kind of like
Yeah.
I don't know that it's not fitting the aesthetic of a trap. It is kind of just an extension of the monsters, which are also saying, you know, they're negating things. And I think to give Yu-Gi-Oh credit, I think that like this is the best Konami had. Like this is the only way to keep a violet or pink or whatever color you want to use to describe a trap card. Whatever, you know, like you are still allowed to play cards that say the word trap and have a pink border and like they are usable today. So objectively speaking, yes, traps do still exist. They can still be played and they can still be set and like, yes, but they are taking on such a different role.
Yeah.
The idea of a trap that is intended to stop battle is basically unheard of.
Yeah.
It just, there is no Mirror Force. There is no Sakuretsu Armor, Dimensional Prison, you know, none of it. There's no Torrential Tribute. There's no Bottomless Trap Hole. No trap that just simply is like, your opponent sprung your trap.
Yeah, you never trigger your opponent's trap. It's they use it when they want because it can do anything.
Yeah, and I think that's like, so those are my two things with like those arguments. Is like, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh can be more than one turn, and I think that traps. I don't know. Jury's still out on like, you know, how much that fulfills the trap wishes for people, but they exist.
I want to go back to the fighting for your first turn thing because I think that's a really interesting headspace to be in, and I think that might be part of the reason why it's like it seems really cool when you're playing it, but if you're trying to get back into Yu-Gi-Oh, if you don't know that that's what you're gonna have to do, that's a tough one to get over, you know.
It's such a hard to tall hill to climb because. The thing with like fighting for your turn is that it necessitates a couple of things. There's a few steps. It's like, first, you have to run hand traps. You have to include Ash Blossom and Effect Failure and all these other cards in your deck at a number high enough that you can expect to see them when you're going first. So that's like step one. I think for a new player, that can be a little bit bizarre because, you know, if I was a new player in 2004, I'm going to try this Yu-Gi-Oh thing. And I, you know, read a card like Bottomless Trap Hole. It's pretty intuitive, you know, like their opponent summoned a monster with this much attack or higher. They sprung your trap and then their monster falls down the hole and like, you know, cool. It makes diegetic sense.
Exactly.
It makes gameplay sense. Whatever. I think when I look at, if I was like a new player kind of looking at like Ash Blossom or Effect Failure, it's kind of like, well, I mean, they're monsters, but they're having these like defensive effects, and then also like they're not as clear cut. I think about what it is that the role that they should have.
Right.
So for instance,
sorry,
go ahead.
Well, it's exactly what you're saying. Like I have no idea how Ash Blossom, like a ghost zombie girl card, is able to counter what my opponent's doing, like the fact that that's such an important card. Why would I put that in my Predaplant deck or my Exodia deck or my Dinosaur deck? That doesn't seem to fit.
Yeah.
Whereas I can understand putting like a trap, like a mechanized thing that destroys a thing, obviously, you know.
And that's like, and so that just, you know, aesthetically speaking, there's a bit of a disconnect. But then even if we leave all that out, like, you know, we're just strictly focused on the gameplay purposes here. I think that the second challenge people run up against is like, okay, what am I supposed to use this Ash Blossom against?
It's super important. Yeah.
It's very deceptive because there are a lot of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are, well, first of all, most decks are designed to be able to search a lot and summon from deck a lot. And you only have one Ash Blossom, you can only use one. So like, you got to be pretty particular about what you're using it against. There are many deceptive cards. An example I've given a lot of people is, have you heard of the Fiendsmith cards at all?
No. Go ahead.
Maybe vaguely. Okay. It's just, in short, it's this archetype of like fiend monsters that kind of like they come out of the grave and they fuse, they link, and all these things. The main monster is this card called Fiendsmith Engraver. And it's got a couple of effects, but the main one is that you can pitch it from your hand and it will search a Fiendsmith spell from the deck. And there's one particular Fiendsmith spell that's usually searched, which is called Fiendsmith's Tract. And what that does is it searches for a Fiendsmith monster, for a fiend monster from your deck to your hand, and then you discard a card.
Okay.
So with just those two cards, there's actually an interesting conundrum that happens. if you just learned how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, you're kind of picking up on what hand traps are, you read a guide or something, someone said you need to be running Ash Blossom and using it against your opponent's cards that add stuff from deck to hand. And you're playing against me. And I start the duel out by activating Fiendsmith Engraver. I pitch it from my hand and it says, it will search a Fiendsmith spell from my deck to my hand. You're like, oh, okay. So I should probably use Ash Blossom on that card. It makes sense. People told me I'm supposed to use Ash Blossom to stop searching effects, so this sounds like an appropriate time. And so you use it against Fiendsmith Engraver, and then it actually turns out, well, joke's on you, I already had the spell that it was going to search in my hand. And the thing is, that spell is the real thing that starts the combo.
Sure.
Now, the trouble that the thorny thing here is that the proper play is you let them use Engraver, and you ignore that, and you wait for them to get the spell, and then you use Ash on the spell. Because no matter what, the spell can only be used once. But that much nuance, I think, is something that you only can really learn very trial by fire. And that's like the criticism I think I sort of have around like Ash Blossom and hand traps is that for new players, you have to learn so much tiny nuance about what exactly to be stopping and when exactly to be stopping it. Because if you make the smallest error in that, your opponent will take that and run with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It seems like most decks have basically one bottleneck that if you can hit it right where it hurts, then you'll stop it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's just going to banish the card from the graveyard and somehow recycle it. And
then
you're
it
like,
doesn't-
oh, okay,
yeah.
so I wasted the card, whatever.
And that I think is like really, it's very I think it yanks people around on a chain a little bit because it's like you are sort of told to run a certain card and that it has a certain use, but when you use it in that way, it can still kind of feel like, oh, well, joke's on you. You did it wrong. That's something though that, to Yu-Gi-Oh's credit, if you play for a long time, you begin to recognize those scenarios and it's not so bad.
Sure, the skill
But-
ceiling is high, which is cool. That's a hallmark of a really good competitive game. So I'll give it
Yeah,
credit
and
there.
so I think like competitively speaking, it's very satisfying. Like, when I'm at a regional and my opponent kind of doesn't know something about my deck, they use their hand trap at the wrong time, I'm like, yes, like let's go to town, right? Like, I was able to kind of create a scenario where like they were in a catch-22. That I think is when people talk about, the skill ceiling of Yu-Gi-Oh! And like the high octane, super satisfying, nuanced gameplay, I think that they're looking at that and other things. There's combo lines, all this other stuff, but like they like kind of manipulating these interactions in their favor. I think though that the problem is just that like it's a pretty high floor too. Like it is a pretty
It
high
is.
floor and when you get back to the kind of the one turn problem where like so much happens in the one turn, there was a period of time in Yu-Gi-Oh where making one mistake, like let's say you use your trap hole at the wrong time against one of your opponent's monsters, you weren't going to lose next turn.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a mistake, but like it's not like this one interaction will lead to your absolute demise on the second turn. It is just kind of more like, you used trap hole here, maybe you should have waited. Whatever.
Right.
There's like some strategy to it. Here, it's like you use Ash in the wrong thing. Screw you. It's over now. Like the whole deck is my oyster. I'm going to it's going to, and so like because the stakes are so high in like getting back to that whole like fighting for your one turn, the stakes are sky high. If you don't get that one turn, then you just that might be it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a super interesting gameplay loop. Yeah.
It's power fantasy. I really think it is true blue feast or famine. Oftentimes when you're winning, you're on top of the world.
Yeah,
it's so much fun. You have had everything, and then when you lose, it's like you were deprived of it all.
Yeah,
have
you didn't do anything. I saw someone in my comments describe it as like instead of a slow chess match, it's more like a fighting game, which I can appreciate. Like I like fighting games. I'm a big Super Smash Brothers player, so I can understand like if that's your cup of tea and you really want it to be that way. Like fair enough. I kind of one of the thoughts I had earlier that I thought about tweeting out, but maybe it wouldn't be received well. But I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is like it's gotten like spicier and spicier, and so now it's all the people who love like Carolina Reaper peppers telling people who are only able to handle jalapenos like, well, just it's not for everyone, I guess. It's like, well, it's
Yeah,
never going to be for everyone. If you're expecting people to eat the hottest hot sauce on the planet in order to play your game. Like they're just not
So
going to do it.
I will let you in on, this is not like a secret or anything. I'll let you in on a pretty open secret. Is like, I think that in truth, first of all, I'm really glad that you did this interview with me. I hope that it's been good. No matter who I think you actually do this interview with, no matter what Yugi-tuber you ask, I think that most people actually are of that mind that you just described. This is a game that is highly, highly, like with every passing year, I think is more and more in a bubble.
Yeah.
Where the people, it's probably the biggest delta between like in-group and out-group of like any card game. Where if you're in Yu-Gi-Oh, you're so used to it all. Like
Sure.
you know what's up, you know how things work, and you'll it can be easy to put the blinders on and like just forget that it's really insane. And being the person who eats the 10 million Scoville pepper for fun, and they're just used to it, and like, well, my tongue's used to it. Like once you've eaten a few of them, it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Like why are you just? It's that I think is just the truth. Like to tweet it would probably be a mistake. People probably hate you for it, but I think that it is. I think that it's just the truth of the matter. Like Yu-Gi-Oh's had a lot of issues with onboarding in recent years, and part of it I think is an aesthetic thing. Like people don't recognize what the new monsters are and stuff like that. But I also think like part of it is just how are you going to learn what to do? How can a structure deck, how can a simple one-off video or product really teach you the small nuances of chain blocking and like if-then effects and like fussy little like kind of card text
Don't want to miss the
things.
timing now. Yeah.
There's
so many things. No, it is super interesting.
I think that something I was going to just say, because I've
yeah.
seen a lot of response around it, is there is sort of an assumption that like people who don't appreciate what this is, like what modern Yu-Gi-Oh is, are stuck in the past. And there's some truth to that, I suppose, too. Like, I mean, I do think that, like, Yu-Gi-Oh had a period of time where it was just distinctly, it was just different. And, like, the aesthetic was different. The gameplay loop was different. The skill sets, maybe, that it was testing were different. But I think that, like, it's weird because for me, like you said, people called you, like, a Yugi-boomer. And that's an interesting term because, like, I've been called that. I've seen a lot of people be called that. But it's weird because, like, I've played pretty much the whole way through.
Yeah.
So am I a Yugi-boomer if I am nostalgic for old elements of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I still played in a regional, like, 2 months ago? And got my invite, like, 2 months ago? Like,
It is interesting. It feels like some people
criticism?
will call you a Yugi-boomer if you're not like literally up to date on the exact latest meta. Like you haven't played this ban list, this meta. Your opinion is invalid. Which is like, come on now.
I saw people they kind of they write you off, right?
Yeah.
Like like this is just this guy who. It's funny because I know that you know Yu-Gi-Oh, but I think for a lot of people watching the video, it's like this is an outsider. He's what is he?
It's
know,
like
right?
they have a point if all they care about is the exact latest meta. Like it's fair enough. I don't know it that well, So, but I don't think you should have to know everything.
Be that deep in the weeds to
right.
To
oh,
talk
you
about
want to have
Yu-Gi-Oh,
opinion
right?
on Yu-Gi-Oh?
Like,
Name every Yu-Gi-Oh card ever. Okay.
Yeah, name everything. Give every ruling.
Yeah. But I remember what I was going to say. So is there actual data to reflect like a difficulty in gaining players because I feel like over the last half decade or so, like the pandemic and everything, there was a huge influx of interest in a lot of these old hobbies. People reconnecting with Magic the Gathering, people reconnecting with Pokemon, all these sorts of things. We're seeing YouTube channels on these topics just skyrocket. We're seeing like the prices of the cards go insane. And like, is Yu-Gi-Oh in a similar boat? Like, are tournaments booming? What's it looking like?
So my understanding is that, and this is, so there's some numbers and then some just more like anecdotes, is that like at the YCS level, kind of your like national tournament, the numbers I remember during like right after COVID, actually leading up to COVID, the numbers were increasing a good bit. I know obviously COVID happened, so a couple of years off, but like afterwards, people were coming out in force for tournaments.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that like YCS attendance has been stable. In fact, the people that are playing at that high level, at that high ceiling, are quite enjoying themselves, and rightfully so. Like there's that's been good. The anecdotal part, and I can only really gauge this from just comments I've read and things I've seen in my own like local shops I've visited, is like the local Yu-Gi-Oh scene has had a rough go of it.
Sure.
It is a game that has playing Yu-Gi-Oh casually isn't. Oh my god! I feel like I'll get like ripped up a bit for this, but like I've talked about this in videos before. Is there's a lot of competition for a casual gaming experience now. Nowadays, like, Friday Night Magic has not gone anywhere. If anything, it's gotten far more popular. Like, there are far more people now who can just show up and play a Commander night. And
yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting. So Magic's kind of had the opposite thing, where it's like the actual competitive, like high level modern standard scene
they
are
feel
really
neglected.
not thriving. No, like it's all in the Commander scene now. It's all the casual stuff. So
the thing is, it's like, Yu-Gi-Oh isn't a game, and I love Yu-Gi-Oh. I play it a lot. But it is not a game that you can relax and play.
Yeah,
you have
true.
to be.
You got to be
very,
dialed
like,
in. You got to know exactly where to stop your opponent.
Because I am not joking. So you've played some Master Duel. If you play some real life Yu-Gi-Oh, every phase is kind of a like, I need to give you permission to breathe, right?
Yeah.
Like, wait, are you changing phases? Anything on response? Anything
Yeah,
on
I mean, I remember
like,
doing that on like dueling book and what was it called? Like, where you had to
EDO
type
Pro, like,
effect,
declare those chain links.
type battle phase. Yeah,
Chain link 1 this, chain link 2 this, chain link 3 this. I'm targeting this, like, because it's very picky and it's very, it's a fussy game. And I have a friend who he was actually telling me, he was like, I like Yu-Gi-Oh, but it gives me a little anxiety to play. Like he was saying, like, it gets me a little on edge because it's just, you do have to be so dialed in. And meanwhile, when you look at a game like Commander, and this isn't like a Yu-Gi-Oh versus Magic, whatever. It's just like, this is an objective truth. In Commander and like a casual Commander night, you play your cards in your turn, and you can kind of like sit back and check out, right? Like until someone maybe like obviously if you're playing like bracket like 4 or 5, it's gonna be a little different.
Exactly.
But for the most part, it is a game where like you can relax until someone's attacking you maybe, and then you just decide, okay, I want to block with this stuff, and then that's kind of it. But I think with Yu-Gi-Oh, even if we're not playing kind of top of the meta stuff, even with more like kind of rogue mid-level decks, there's still just a lot of nuance. There's still a lot of steps, and you do need to be dialed in and paying attention. And so I think that once upon a time that might have been fine, but in a world where the options grow ever more vast, I could be playing Magic, I could be playing One Piece. One Piece is a big competitor now. Like,
it's okay,
a little easier to get into. People like the products a bit more, and the game's not as like high octane and like death at the first blink type of thing. It just means that a lot of people that I know who would have played Yu-Gi-Oh casually, and again, we're talking people who they weren't really ever going to go to OICS, so they weren't really in that target market, but like they liked playing Yu-Gi-Oh, they liked building decks. They've kind of felt a little burned, and so they've just been like, well, I just decided to go to One Piece. Like it treats me a little better, and in that way, I think like there is a bit of a struggle to grow the player base. I think that Konami's retention of the competitive player isn't in jeopardy. I think that they seem to be having a lot of fun, and people still get excited about like the new thing that will make, add one more nuance bit to the competitive rock paper scissors. But I think like where Yu-Gi-Oh has suffered some is in that mid-core crowd, the person who's just kind of like looking to have more fun and stuff like that, and it doesn't serve that player as well.
One thing I really wish Yu-Gi-Oh had was a limited scene. Like it had it for like a tiny little fraction where it had the what was it, the battle packs. Those were so fun. I wish that Yu-Gi-Oh had way more of that.
Yeah, so it's introduced things that are like that. I love the battle packs. I hate that they got rid of them. Apparently, like my hot take on battle packs. They were perfect product, wrong time. Literally, like I remember when they came out, it was 2012, and it was at a time when I think like people were just not yearning for draft. They weren't yearning for like kind of a just construct a deck in 10 minutes with just this like kind of set of things, and people were having like fun with Yu-Gi-Oh. They didn't really want it. And they made a couple of battle packs, and then they eventually just were like, these don't really seem to sell well. The players don't take well to them. If battle packs had come out during like COVID, or
Yeah.
like kind of, right in that sweet, the sweet spot, right? Everyone's just like revisiting these old hobbies. I think
Right.
it would have been so great because Yu-Gi-Oh sets as they are now are not draftable. The way that sets are composed, they don't lend themselves well to draft. And so as a result, you don't get an easy kickback experience where the product will simply present itself to us, we'll pick some cards from it, and me and some friends will sit down and like duel. No, it doesn't work that way. That's just not, it isn't a thing. They did Speed Duel. I liked Speed Duel. I know it had some trouble with
I
catching
liked it
on,
too. I quite enjoyed
but
it
I think
as
it
well.
was a genius product. I was actually
Yeah.
able to speak with the guy who like conceived of it and like worked on a lot
Really?
of the products.
That's cool.
And yeah, he was, he doesn't work in Konami anymore, but like
Hmm.
they really fought for that product. And I thought that it was really good. It's a shame because like it sort of kept more of like the anime elements that maybe more of like an old school player might like. And I thought the skill cards thing were cool. And like there were so many good things about it. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't currently have a format that does anything like that. There's a Genesis format that is new, and it is
Oh
sort
yeah,
of.
I was gonna ask you what you thought of that one. Yeah, Genesis. Genesis feels like it's so close to being awesome. If they just did it,
Yeah.
so like every card that was stronger than Celtic Guardian cost at least 1 point, then it would be perfect. But of course, that would take a billion years to actually index every card. But
Genesis is cool because like it's an admission by Konami that there is
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah.
Like I think that it lets you know like this modern Yu-Gi-Oh's the power level is really high.
Yeah.
So they bring the power level down through Genesis. I think that they also made probably the right call in excluding pendulums and links from it.
uh-huh.
They're banned. I know like optically people don't really like those. It runs into some problems with that because there are certain archetypes that would get like one single pendulum monster as support, and now they just aren't as functional in Genesis
Sure.
format. But either way, Genesis is cool. Recently, it's had some issues with like it still sort of feels like just diet modern game.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the skill sets and the objectives are still the same as modern Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just your deck is a little less consistent.
Pretty
or maybe
much. Like, I think the issue with it-
less hand traps, but yeah.
Yeah, like if you set like the point cap to 0 in Genesis format, like every single card on the point list period was inherently banned, it would still basically be a very similar gameplay loop to modern Yu-Gi-Oh, as far as I could tell.
So I'll push back a bit on that.
Okay.
Because what I think is like they made Genesis and they assign points to things, and the standard points that they use is 100.
Yeah.
And they kind of designed it to be like you can scale it at your local scene or whatever you're playing with your friends. So you could set the point total to like 200 or 1,000 or 50 or whatever. If you actually set it to 0, there is a significant drop in value.
Is it? Okay. Yeah.
Like, because any card that's got a point value is pretty much like something played in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. If you set it to 0, things get pretty chill. The thing is, 0 point Genesis has not really taken off at all. And I think it's just because people they don't think about it that way. Like they don't see that as a possibility, or like I guess Konami just didn't market it that way. Like 100 point Genesis kind of feels like diet modern Yu-Gi-Oh. 0 point Genesis is low power, but it just hasn't caught on. And I think it hasn't been presented to people as much. And like, I think if they did
that makes
do that,
sense. Yeah.
that would have looked and played out differently. It's like a we'll never know scenario. Like
It's kind of an alternate format of an alternate format at that point, right? So it's like
Yeah, and
you
that's
kind of a
never
hat on a
gonna-
hat scenario. And there are cool alternate formats, right? You have the Goats format, you have the Edison format. So like you're probably just going to go to those if that's really what you're about, right?
I'm mixed on those a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think like I like Goat and Edison. I think that snapshot formats are really cool, and every game kind of has them to some degree. The problem that I have is like people will sometimes sort of like, I'm sure you've read a comment or two about this, like just go play Goat if you're so angry with modern Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Right.
Like, and so you'll kind of be told like, well, just go play this. That's for you. But what if you still want the aesthetic of the cool new cards? Like you still want to play a cool new deck, like the Pumpkin support that you were describing, right? Or like you might have seen Hungry Burger, that old ritual monster.
Yeah.
There's an archetype that's
Right.
like kind of centered on Hungry Burger. It is not a good deck. It is very, like it's kind of awkward. It can do some fun things.
Yeah, it's cool
but
though.
it has no place effectively because
Uh-huh.
it can't really be played in modern. It's not really good enough to keep up. It actually can't even be played in Genesis format because it's got a couple of pendulum monsters.
Does it? Okay.
It's
Yeah.
only got like 2. It's not even a pendulum deck. But also it can't be played in Goat because Goat is Goat.
Way new. Yeah.
So where does it end up? Nowhere. Like it just sort of there isn't a place to conceivably really like play it and like see and have like a good time. No one's stopping you from like playing it at locals. And it's just that, like,
But they'll stop you from winning, all right, though.
they'll stop you from winning. It's like,
Yeah.
And I have always felt that like Yu-Gi-Oh sort of needs a space for those kinds of decks to find something. Like there's a Flame Swordsman archetype that they made. Like it's Flame Swordsman and Salamandra, and like they kind of like create like Salamander as an actual dragon monster, and it's a cool thing, but it's just not tournament viable. So like, where does that play? And because Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't quite have like I think a space for those decks, that's like a bit of a flaw I find.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make it tough. And there's always going to be some deck at the bottom end of what's viable, right? But like those are cool. You hate to miss out on it. So, yeah, well.
Yeah, I don't know. And like they are anime decks too. So like I think aesthetically, like if you're an anime fan, they're appealing. I sometimes think like, when Konami makes these anime archetypes, it's a good way to reel in a nostalgic player, an older player. But they will have to kind of deal with everything else that comes with.
Yeah, this is like,
the
if I
game.
could have one takeaway, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh is really, really good at reeling you back in. But once you get there, it's like, oh, wait, get me out of here.
I mean, it's Super Smash Bros. Melee in a lot
Yes,
of ways.
I think I genuinely like, I beef on Twitter plenty with gaming communities, and Yu-Gi-Oh is one now, but Melee is another one because that's another one where I have issues with the diegetic mechanics, issues with the skill floor, all the type of stuff. And
Melee. It's funny. I remember you were telling me that you follow Smash. I play Melee, and it's eerily maps closely onto Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah,
where, like
genuinely.
You got to like play Melee for like a year to just be comfortable moving.
Right.
Like, not even be good, but just like, oh, I feel actually comfortable within the physics and the mechanics of like just moving in this game. Now I can actually start properly like improving and like thinking.
Exactly.
But then like when you are, it's like, it's so fun. It's like flow state and it's fast and this punish game. And it's so like crazy. And that's Yu-Gi-Oh. Like that really is. But still like, there's a reason why like, a game like Smash Ultimate or whatever, the Smash 6 will always be more popular is because it is more accessible and it is like it simplifies mechanics and those games aren't perfect by any means either. But like, what is your sort of like, what do you value in your games? Like with Yu-Gi-Oh, do you value kind of like the fast pace and the nuance over the diegetics, over the aesthetic, and over like kind of whatever values that pre-2010 Yu-Gi-Oh rewarded?
Yeah.
Like you have to pick. You really have to pick because they're both named Yu-Gi-Oh. They are not both the same Yu-Gi-Oh.
Not the same.
There's not.
Yeah, that's great. It's very insightful. And that might be a decent place to end on because like at the end of the day, you're not going to make everyone happy. But some people do need to recognize,
I don't envy it.
Yeah, some people got to recognize like the level things are at. You're eating Carolina Reapers all the time and expecting people to try to stomach that. So
yeah,
it's tough.
I mean, I would end by also just saying like I think there is. I hope like for people's takeaway, there's nothing wrong with liking modern Yu-Gi-Oh. I truly don't believe there's anything wrong with it. I like it. I play it. I have gripes with it, but I play it. And there's nothing wrong with like liking it. I think that it's just more like, an acknowledgement that it is imperfect and like everything is. And also that like you're not wrong for like having criticisms of it. And because they're like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. I did a show 2-3 years ago at this point where I got my friends to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but it was the very, very old school Yu-Gi-Oh. and I had a.
Was that Duelist Mansion?
That's right. Yeah, Duelist Mansion.
Yeah.
And one of the friends who joined us for that, like she had never like touched really like any sort of nerdy thing before at all. And at the end of the show, she's like, I think I just discovered that I'm a nerd. And she like went out and bought a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Like genuinely, she bought like the Legacy Yugi deck or something. She showed up one day, we were hanging out, and she's like, "Yeah, I got all these like I got Exodia the Forbidden One." And I'm like, "That is so cool." Like I wish that. Unfortunately, she's gonna like have the experience of trying to play that and just run into a brick wall.
It's you saying that does remind me. There is like a world of Yu-Gi-Oh fandom, and I'm always pleased when I see this. There's a world of Yu-Gi-Oh fandom that's totally separate from the card games, and I also love that side. Like just strictly people who just like cosplay and they do art and like they collect just figures and like. Even most of those people kind of know, like, the card game's beyond me, right? Like this modern stuff, I'm not gonna do it. But they still like Yu-Gi-Oh! The IP, Yu-Gi-Oh! Just the aesthetic, the brand, the monsters, just the imagery, and so like I think in that way, it's
Yu-Gi-Oh! Has had some real genuine staying power. Like I play poker about once a week with my buddies, and like the term "heart of the cards" gets dropped at some point, right? And like that's
the
sticking
Shadow
with,
Realm.
Yeah, like that is sticking with the culture no matter what. Like that's never gonna go away. And I
would like to see more
that.
dialogues between all of it, like just between all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Lovers. That'd be really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully we did a good job kicking that off. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean. Yeah.
Well, I super appreciate your time, Paul. Thank you for your insight into the game and for your
for sure.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm always glad to talk Yu-Gi-Oh!
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and I'll catch you later.